to Basic Control, baby. Today we're gonna get in your minds. We're gonna get in real deep.
Welcome to Basic Control, the show where we effectively break down various forms of media into relatable context, basically giving the control back to the viewers. My name is Aaron Ray, aka The Boss Ray, on social media. You feel free to follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and ArtStation. As for my co-hosts, where can the people find you, Adrian?
At 80K Lives, buying stuff from Janus Cosmetics.
Wow. Follow us on Facebook at Poppy Guys Attack. Subscribe to us on YouTube at PG Attack. Download and stream on Audiomack and SoundCloud, or email us at pgattack@gmail.com. Any questions, comments, hypotheticals, or advice you'd like to see addressed on the show. First, we'll get into our icebreakers, our coverage and opinions on current events. Moving then into our main topic today being Justice League Behind the Curtains. Finally spilling out into the hypothetical section where we let loose, crack open our creative sides, and dig into the rabbit hole. How are you doing, my man?
I'm good. You know, I got to enjoy a really fantastic film, and then some really good albums. November 17th was fucking lit, dude. But
yeah, we're still in the midst of unpacking November 17th, Justice League, Punisher. I mean, this is mostly the Justice League show, so.
Yeah, Thanksgiving. What'd you eat?
Beans, greens, potatoes, tomatoes, chicken, tracks. Yeah.
Sounds like you had the essentials.
You gotta get the essentials. Well, I just want to get this out of the way. I want to talk about the Jay-Z. You know, we already talked about 444. But Jay-Z, he thought he people should be grateful that he dropped the last 3 videos for his project. So he finally finished out his video portion of the album. Apart from, was it like a movie with Emile Hirsch, or was it just another video?
It was basically a short film. It was like 10 minutes long. Emile Hirsch, Ron Perlman, etc., etc. I'm missing a lot of people, but
I wasn't able to catch it because I don't really like Tidal that much. But my man's Adrian was able to catch it, so I'll be able to ask you your opinion, and if I should also, I guess I'll end this out with asking you if I should actually invest in Tidal myself. Legacy, Smile, and Marcy Me. If you remember, well, I don't know if people know anything about the Marcy projects or anything like that. So I'm wondering, and the song kind of references his quote-unquote dope dealer past.
Aaron was on the block out here. He had 38 kilos in the back of his RAV4, like the exact detail shit, like stuffed it in the tire. Yeah. He was out here balling, son.
What he would say is, what Jay, his popular thing he used to say is like, people be telling on themselves. So what I was getting to is, no matter what, his credentials is signed and sealed, whether like these things are real or not. And the things that he do mention, you can't really prove it on them.
Oh, fuck yeah, IRS, send the IRS. Niggas dying back where I was birthed. Yeah, that was their intro.
Yeah. There's like a lot of stuff like that. So like his past is pretty much in a sort of open book. I remember people like Oprah and them like, how could you sell drugs and all this? Because he didn't change his image. And this whole tape is about him peeling back even further from this image and just saying, I'm just Sean now. I'm not even there. I'm killing Jay-Z with this. And so it kind of makes me wonder, what the direction of, Legacy, Smile about his mother, and Marcy about his past, where these videos go, in your opinion.
Well, one, these aren't all the videos, for the record. Caught Their Eyes doesn't have one, Family Feud doesn't have one, but every one of the others does. These 3 videos, starting with the Legacy video, I guess we'll talk about. Ron Perlman is playing Mr. Carter, and the inmates at this correctional facility are discussing how innocent they are, or either like all the bullshit they have to go through. And the dialogue is really cool because they're referencing, each of them is kind of, I don't know if they're each an aspect of Jay or just an aspect of the people who are in society who are incarcerated. So Emile Hirsch plays a trope. They all play a trope. I need to pull the rest of the characters. Jesse Williams is in it. And then Ron Perlman comes up all of a sudden. They're like, oh, Mr. Carter wants to meet with us. How could somebody control the jail, right? So turns out Ron Perlman's character, Mr. Carter, a white sort of, he's a different type of Jay-Z. Like, he's this big, hulking dude. You know, it's Ron Perlman. He's white.
The pale white dude with white hair or something.
With white hair. He's totally opposite Jay-Z, right? But it's still this dude there, and he's like, oh, I'm gonna get y'all out. Basically, he tells them about legacy. All of us here, whether we're innocent or not innocent. Oh, and Susan Sarandon is in the video. She's the first face you see. She's the warden. And she's like, I'm gonna break you. You're never gonna get out of here. You're never gonna. So it's this kind of, I think it's about this allegory of like what we talk about a lot, being young and black in society and what you're expected to do. Not even just the jail itself. I think the whole prison point was a metaphor for a bigger picture. It could just be some jail shit, you know. Jay-Z doesn't have to be this big. But art is to whomever is watching it, how they digest it. So, but that's what
subjective, basically.
Yeah, it's subjective. And then the second, which I thought they were kind of connected in theme, is the Marcy Me video. Because in the Marcy Me video, I don't know if it's supposed to be a young Jay-Z, but this little kid, there's a helicopter flying over Marcy Projects, and this little kid basically gets given $100 by some older dudes who are playing cards at the table on the roof of Marcy Projects. He gives the young boy $100. The young boy runs up to the store, grabs all the liquor, cigarettes for everybody at the party and shit. It's basically this look at like how when you're young and what you're around, and the project building is this community. Like, they weren't doing anything bad. The guys in the helicopter, they get a call. The lady's like, oh, there's been a stabbing or something at Marcy Projects, and they fly their helicopter over. It turns out nothing actually happened, it seems. But it's like they're suspects running from the crime.
Right. Yeah.
Cool.
The implication of that.
Yeah, but it has like young bull's just giving cigarettes and shit to everybody, and then the last shot is the helicopter light shining down on the party on the roof. That shit's crazy.
Well, two things about that before you tell me about Smile. Two things stand out for me. This week they dropped the Family Guy episode where Peter accidentally, well, I'm not even gonna say accidentally, he shoots Cleveland Jr. where he's wearing a hoodie, climbing back into his house because he joins the neighborhood watch, blah blah blah. And so it's sort of this George Zimmerman situation on Family Guy. And I thought the way they handled that episode was actually all right. I thought they showed, I hate to say both sides, but yeah, they showed both sides of it all right. And you know, I would say if Peter Griffin has more remorse over killing a black kid than George Zimmerman, then, you know, the world's kind of in trouble in that regard. But the only other thing that stood out to me, there's a new show coming out called The Chi. The show's produced by Comment, and the show's produced by, some other people. It's straight up Chicago. It's everything you think about when you think about that Marcy Me video, the community keeping each other afloat. Regardless of like the good, the bad, and the ugly, you know, keeping the kids out of trouble, keeping it, the thugs and, or people who have to do some kind of dirt, keeping them or try to talk to them out of things, and showing them that they have three-dimensionality to them. And it's not just, it's about buying diapers, and it's about, making money or getting somewhere out of here where we know that the system can't really hurt us. It's just keeping the community together. And I think when that show comes out, I'm gonna see about it, but it feels like a much more community centric version of like Atlanta. And so that's what it kind of reminded me of, the Marcy Me situation.
The Smile video, and there's some quality about these that is vintage. I don't know if it's how they shot it, edited, or what, but
Was it continuously in black and white, or were they cut?
No.
Were
These were color, but they had a grainy texture to them. Especially the smile in the Marcy Me video. That's why I was like, is this supposed to be old? Is this supposed to be modern? Is it not? Is it supposed to not really fit? Is this supposed to be a blend of worlds?
Beyonce kind of did that once in the self-titled Beyonce tape, where one of her videos was sort of set up to look like it was 80s, and she was kind of like the Tanya Harding, the figure skater. So she was supposed to be kind of like the Beyonce version of Tanya Harding. It was set up to look a certain way. You know, Margot Robbie is playing Tanya Harding in a movie. So this man Jay-Z is like shaking hands with just people he sees in the street. Oh yeah, hey Hollywood, y'all wanna be in my video? He don't hang out with Susan Sarandon every day. You can't tell me that. Like, all right.
You don't gotta hang. I don't hang out with y'all every day, but y'all are homies.
Yeah, but you understand this. He's not hanging out with Susan Sarandon anytime. There's nothing he does with Susan Sarandon. Him and Beyonce and the kid, they're not hanging out with Susan Sarandon. He's seen her. He's like, hey, I love your work. He's like, oh yeah, Jay-Z, you're big, I'm big. Y'all should do that thing. It's like when you see somebody, it's like, oh yeah, we should do something. This is like him calling and the margin call of that.
They did some work before. So that's what I'm saying. Like, if it's somebody you've met, you come up, associate, whatever. Like, oh.
I suppose, but most people just say, yeah, I was just saying that just to say it. But I mean, he's Jay-Z. He's big enough to get Ron Perlman to like that conversation. Once you get it going, he's like, he can't really say no. It's Jay-Z.
That's not true.
I mean, not even Donald Trump could say no to this man.
I'm sure. He turned him down for this shit.
Yeah, he turned Trump down. But I'm saying, if it was the other way around,
just like he met Kanye West in the lobby. Just because they're hoes don't mean everybody, you know what I mean? Like, that's not that type of time. Especially when you're a celebrity, like, of a certain status and you got shit to do yourself. I don't have to make the call for Jay-Z.
You're not even seeing it the way I see it. We already know he's a Howard Hughes type dude who like to like hide in the house. It's the same thing with what's his face? Oh my God, Dr. Dre. Dr. Dre does the same thing. He hides in the house and he calls some people up if he asks, because he's a recluse. Who doesn't want to meet the recluse artist who's like on this high level? He's an icon.
I don't think he stays cooped up.
No, he don't go. He go to the game. He go to the Knicks. To the Knicks game every now and then, and that's it.
I could be in Rome, cans.
When Jay-Z is on a boat in Rome and he call you, he's like, yeah, I'm on my boat in Rome. I want y'all to come out to, I want to talk about this project, and all of these projects, notice Jay was nowhere on set. He was, so I'm like, I don't even.
Well, they said
they had him on Skype,
but he probably was set. He probably just.
They had him on FaceTime.
You can just send a person out to handle everything.
What is he, Mr. Claw? Like, what is he?
Really? Marcy Projects flying over the New York skyline.
He's the type of dude to roll up in a blacked out whip with like just the window roll down just a little bit. You come out, the smoke come out, and he's like, it's the Hope, it's the Rock.
He did that in the movie, right?
Which movie?
State Property. It was either State Property or State Property.
Oh, yes.
And he rolls up. They roll the window down just a little bit, and he's like, and he says the dude's talking to him the whole time, and his only line was, "Do you think I need a haircut?" That's his only line, and
he's cold though. I won't take that away from him. He's a cold dude.
With all that evidence, I really believe you now. I think he really just hit some people up and was like, yeah, be in this, yes or no. And then you have until Thursday to decide.
I mean, Kanye said he has shooters. Who knows? Who knows what's going on with that?
The Smile video? it was like young Jay, his father, his mother, I guess the woman that his mother was secretly trying to have a relationship with. It was this story about his mother's life, dealing with her lesbianism and like them growing up in Marcy Projects in this small apartment. It was a really intimate video. I had to give Jay kudos for this one because it was probably the most nuanced. I feel like it was the most thought real. Yeah, it was really like, this is a story. His mom pops in at the end to read her poem in the modern day. So the whole thing was just really cool and neat. I got recalled to the way that this one Haim video looks. There's a Haim video where they play their song. It's recorded in one take, it looks like. And they play the song all the way through. It has a really vintage look. They're dressed in like set. Just a lot of these classic looking videos that are coming out. If this is the Dissection 444, then the Black Album was sort of the reverse of that, where he was building the myth. So he like kills the character of Jay-Z in this one song in the beginning of the video for the one with him and Rick Rubin, 99 Problems. And he builds up this character of him. He talks about his family and everything. Same sort of Jay, but that was, I guess, the antithesis of the Dissection now. So you get this rebirth of Sean Carter, or you get this rebirth of Jay-Z on 444 where he talks in BAM, where he's like, fuck all that petty Sean Carter shit. This is Hove. Hove was on that gospel shit. I was on the total fucking opposite or some shit. He like builds that character back up.
What they kind of accomplished, well, what I say Jay can really say he accomplished with this, is something that Kendrick doesn't do too often, and something that even J. Cole doesn't do too often. He can have a message that he's getting across, but relate that message to something that he actually has to physically deal with himself.
Personally.
He didn't really talk about, he didn't talk about nothing that didn't actually physically affect him. Whereas if you listen to J. Cole will like, all right, we gotta, you listen to Logic, we gotta decode a pipeline and this, that, and I get it. Yeah, that's cool. And, Jaden, he'll talk about save the whales or whatever is going on with that. And all of that's cool. And even like, the stuff with police violence and that, and dealing with things in Kendrick's personal life, dealing with, God and all these things. That's cool and all. But he didn't do it what Jay did on this tape, which is kind of take a step out of the broad strokes and go like real small strokes with this.
That was cool. I think that's cool to be able to even take the broader strokes and bring them back down to your own life.
Doomsday Clock. And this sort of relates to our main topic. We're kind of going to focus on where the direction of the DC universe in comic books and in film is going, and how they relate to one another in the direction that sort of shaped the Justice League film that we're going to talk about a little bit later. Because recently, Doomsday Clock just dropped. Was it projected to come out in January, or is it just going to stretch till January? Because I've seen some stuff happen in February.
Did you want to know why they do that?
Why did they do that?
So, and I noticed this too about some magazine publications, is the date, the month of publication is always in advance. Well, not always. It depends if they're trying to also keep up with a certain schedule. I noticed a lot of Marvel comics a few years ago would say like December, and it was November or even October and shit like that. I'd be like, oh, okay, what are you guys trying to do? So it's definitely publication schedules, and you just put that up ahead of time. This is the January publication.
I don't even know if their monthly is 12, right? That's 12 issues of Doomsday Clock. I'm sure this event will stretch to, I'm guessing, what's after February? March? Yeah, it's probably going to stretch till then, but the bulk of the metal will end in February. So I don't know how long Doomsday Clock will stretch, but if it's monthly, then this is going to stretch the whole year, and I don't know how they're going to tie all this in. Basically, if you don't know what we're talking about Doomsday Clock is a big comic book event in DC Comics that ties in Alan Moore's Watchmen from the 80s into current comic book lore, taking Superman and the Watchmen and putting them together in a unique type of way. And I'm gonna spoil this book, so if you haven't read that, I don't even think you care. But and plus it's a book, so you can always go back and read it because it pertains to a lot of detail. It's written by Jeff Johns, who is also head of DC Films. So I found it kind of interesting, some of the directions that he's taking it, especially, and I'm skipping around here. There's a portion in here where they go to Night Owl's lair, and instead of looking like the comic book version of that lair, it kind of resembles more of the one from Snyder's film.
Yeah, I was peeping some of that stuff too. I was like, okay, I see you, John.
I mean, I like it. It's just like, it's kind of interesting that they would go for sort of that style. But no, first impressions, off the bat, I like it. Like the 9-panel structure, it really takes you back to that time of where this was the popular style of comic making, and even the art is kind of heavy black.
Yeah, Marvel has this sort of thing to do the callbacks. I feel like DC experiments a little bit more.
It makes it a little bit more special since we don't see this framing a lot. We've seen it slightly in the button, the prelude to this. How do you feel like this did, Watchmen justice? Because for me personally, my opinion first, I guess, I think it did Watchmen justice. Like this first issue, I'm not, just this first issue, because sometimes these things can go off the rails. But from my first instincts, I can say he did what I didn't think he would do, and he leaned real hard on the Watchmen side of things. So this really feels like a sequel to Watchmen rather than just this random spinoff.
I guess that's where we can disagree. And since I like this debating, because debating's cool. Debate show.
Yeah, that's fun.
Now, fuck this as a Watchmen sequel, one. Because Alan Moore said something about the relationship that he had with the company there. And if we remember before Watchmen, the banner of, hey, let's tell all the early Watchmen stories, you kind of seen this wanting to play in the sandbox, but not really having the right voice for it. And to be honest with you, I don't think Johns has the voice for this title. And this is only issue 1. But it's a loaded issue. It's 30-something pages. It's loaded, dude. And making Rorschach black, and it all depends on how he spins it. But it just, a lot of it feels forced. The whole marionette and mime. I always love seeing Gary Frank and John write and draw Superman, because it's some beautiful shit. They did this one story, the Superman Secret Origin, back in like 2008 or 9, 6-issue retelling of Clark's origin, and that shit was so beautiful. The colors do a really bad job at trying to recreate Watchmen. They're not trying to be Watchmen, but more so his love letter to Watchmen, if I can say that. But that's just how I feel about it.
My thing about this, first off, is like, I wouldn't say this is darker or any much. I think the colors, for me, I think color-wise, I think you have a concurrent difference between what's going on in the DC universe now and what they're showing with this whole Watchmen thing. And my fear going in, and this will sort of paint why I'm more approving of this than probably you are. My fear of this going in was thinking like, oh man, this is going to be like, the Batman Ninja Turtle line or the Wonder Woman Tasmanian Devil line that they did. The little tie-ins, funny tie-ins. It was like, oh, Power Rangers and the Justice League, that whole thing. And it didn't come off like that. It felt like this is like, all right, this is a natural progression of these things. The thing about, you know, Rorschach being black, I think I have a theory about who is actually under the mask. Yeah, based on his skin color. Based on his skin color, I already have a suspect. But it's just the fact that and we glossed. I hate that you glossed over that, but yeah, Rorschach is back in this. He's back from the dead. That's technically a spoiler, but yeah, he's back from the dead supposedly, but it's a whole other dude like playing him. So you wonder, did Ozymandias find some dude to do this, or was this dude already set up to follow in his footsteps? Mm-hmm. You know, or was there always just one Rorschach, or was it multiple guys? You know, it brings out a lot more questions. I like where it's going so far in terms of, you know, narrative, because I can see it. All right. First thing I don't like the fact that you have to give a definite ending to what happened in their world. But for the sake of this story, we'll say, all right, this is a version of these events where, you know, because it's a multiverse. Who cares?
52 universes.
Yeah. There's a version of these. Yeah, version of these events where, you know, the Notebook gets out. Who cares? I'm past that. But then you get into the whole thing. Okay, why does he need cancer? Why is because Ozymandias is not on the run? Because I don't know if you haven't read Watchmen, this means nothing to you. But you know, he's on the run now, and I'm like, what are you doing? And you gave him cancer and all this other stuff. You even zoom in on the X-ray as if I care about the tumor in his head. I mean, it's just pointless. You're giving him a disease that adds nothing to his character personally. Unless there's going to be payoff to the fact that he has cancer, you're just doing it just to do it or seem dark or seem like, yeah, this is something Watchmen would do. I don't like.
It's definitely related to the theory of John being responsible for his ex-wife's cancer.
No, he even says that he did it to himself. The whole situation messing around with the radiation and all that. He already admitted that that's how he got it. But he's like, I just want to know what they're going to do with the fact that he is a terminal person right now. His life is already on the line. There's this countdown to the counting down the end of their world, basically, and you're getting these two new characters who will be
crisis.
Instrumental in the things going forward. Now, what that reminded me of, it reminds me of Crisis. You know, every time there's a crisis, there's these two unassuming characters, or Psycho Pirate in the past, not even the one now, but Psycho Pirate in the past.
He was a crisis character.
There's been several other characters like that, like the Monitor and some other guys who's been like pulled out, and they're so unassuming. I remember Piper and Trickster were like my favorite little versions of that, where you just follow these two unassuming characters who had big implications going forward. And the fact that we don't know who the marionette or what she does or what her purpose is kind of blowing me, because the fact is nobody cares about Watchmen villains. Like, nobody cares about that universe because we don't have a concept of, you know, metahumans or anything like that. So I'm not thinking like, oh, she has the power that they need, blah, blah, blah. That doesn't cross my mind. You understand?
They did imply that with Mr. Mime, though.
What, with the guns?
Whatever he was doing, he was on some shit.
I think there's gonna be a payoff to that you won't see coming.
Psychic powers or something.
Well, he's not important. That's the end game. He's the wild card in their situation, and whatever his payoff will be, it will be pertaining to Rorschach or Ozymandias. It won't be any other type of thing. What all of this is leading towards narrative is a confrontation between the Watchmen and the DC universe. Ozymandias says he's looking for God, and we automatically assume, oh, he's looking for Dr. Manhattan. I don't think he's looking for Dr. Manhattan. And when I looked at the disarray that their world is in, I think the one thing that can save them is hope. Something that the Watchmen universe doesn't have. I think he's looking for Superman, right? And if they had a Superman in their world, I think a lot of things will be different. Especially because you get truth, justice, the American way, that sort of thing. And I also feel like if the way they set it up, you automatically assume that these are two different universes. But somebody else was saying, and we're gonna wrap up pretty soon. But somebody was saying that what if this was just the past of the current DC universe? Like they made this the new past of the DC universe. And I was like, that's impossible, because in New 52, when it first started, they said this was the first superhuman team that they ever seen in Justice League, #1. Make no beans about it. They're trying to make the Justice League in New 52. They tried to say that this was the first time they seen something like this in terms of power, in terms of the group, in terms of the whole feeling of that. So they took that time away. So if they're trying to say that this is the 1992 of their universe, or the 1980s, all that stuff was concurrent leading up to a Batman situation, I don't like that whatsoever. However, only way I would have accepted that is if they didn't use the Watchmen characters and they instead use Captain Atom, Palmer, and the Question and all that. Ozymandias, is he going to leave this world with this new Rorschach, who is his partner, that, as they try to put it, but like he's basically his muscle. That's just the guy who works for him. At this point, until a further reveal. I like what I read so far. I didn't hate it. I don't have no crazy feelings like it's doing any injustice so far. I just feel like it feeds more into the current vibe of where these stories are going, rather than trying to fit into Alan Moore's setting, because he was more esoteric with it and all this other stuff, and I don't really get that from here. Everything's given to you pretty straight, and they try to like, haha, look, the government is this way or that way. It's almost like Dark Knight 3, where they put Donald Trump in it, and like they have all this other stuff. Yeah, it's cool and all that you did the Reagan stuff before, but like now it's tired, because now you're putting this ham-fisted commentary in there that didn't really need to be there. And there's stuff like that in here. They mention a lot of celebrities in the beginning. That's the whole point of Watchmen, in my opinion, is that it was a world that was frozen in time of just this fear, and the only thing that broke that time of that doomsday clock, that freezing time between midnight, which is apocalypse, and 11 a.m. or whatever, or 11 p.m. was just this feeling of like just waiting. And then now with Doomsday Clock, it's sort of the same thing, where you have this repeating of freezing time. So they're re-electing the president again, and like everybody's on their way to war. Only thing that broke that the first time was peace. So now Ozymandias is like, he don't even care about the world.
From Crisis on Infinite Earths to Infinite Crisis to Final Crisis to Flashpoint. That shit was really good.
Speaking of Crisis, we can move on to Justice League, where behind the curtain, I would say I enjoyed the film. I'll probably do a real review sometime later. I don't know if we'll do a review or something. But this is not a review of any of that. This is more of a discussion about all the stuff going on with it. This is the biggest film that has had to take $300 million and 2 directors over the course of almost 5 years of pre-production, plus the fact that George Miller had already started on a movie this size in Australia years before, called Justice League Mortal, with Armie Hammer and Adrian Brody as the Flash and all these other stuff. Common was Green Lantern, and all of that got canceled. And then Zack Snyder comes along with Man of Steel, and it's this weird sci-fi version of Superman, and I like it. I think it's a little bit different. Cool. That's a cool Superman. I did not like, I will admit, I didn't like Man of Steel at first, when I first seen it. But then second time, I was like, you know what? I love it. Not only do I like it, I love it. I love Man of Steel. And every time I've seen it ever since, I gotta watch it. It's dope. The reason I didn't like it at first was, you know, the Super 9/11 thing. He cracks Zod's neck, blah, blah, blah. But then, you know, you get over it, blah, blah, blah. And they move over to Batman versus Superman, where, you know, there was implications of Bruce Wayne in Man of Steel. Now they're like, all right, why not Batman? Why not introduce Batman? Since we already had these hints in Man of Steel that there was other things out there, let's just say that. We can't just hop into Justice League without them two meeting at any point in time. That's too heavy to like throw on people. You gotta introduce them to the idea of multiple things slowly. And that's what the journey between BVS and Justice League has been. It's been a conversion of the sci-fi nature of one franchise into the others.
That whole road, first of all, how'd you feel? Because what has this been? 2008 they were talking about this?
It was first announced like around Man of Steel, which was the end of the Dark Knight, around 2012, because that was Man of Steel came out at the time when they were going to make Dark Knight Rises, and they already began production on Justice League Immortal. They canceled Justice League Immortal for the Nolan franchise because they wanted Christian Bale to be the Batman in Justice League Immortal, but then Christian Bale was like, that would confuse people with this and that, and we don't want to step on the perfectness, quote unquote, of what we're already doing with the Nolan franchise. So Nolan quickly ran into to finish his trilogy in Dark Knight Rises so they can move on with whatever else that we're gonna do. Snyder, he was under the mindset that he had to create a Superman that could fit inside of Nolan's Batman. So he was conversing with Nolan a lot, but they ended up not using Nolan's Batman. So he was like, oh, well, since we already introduced Batman, does that mean he's like, you know, do you mind if we bring Batman into this? He's like, yeah, as long as you know, create your own. And so there you go, Snyderverse.
That Snyder interview where he was like, Batman was actually a joke. And then he started to think about it more and more.
You said in a room, he's like, what if Batman send him a thing of kryptonite, blah, blah, blah. And they sitting there laughing. And then once they stop laughing, they're like, yeah, that we can't beat Batman and sending him kryptonite. So let's chop.
Let's try to work that. Yeah. I love that. I love that process of story development. When it's the group and you're just kind of like, oh shit. But no, I really wanted to know how you just felt inside about this whole journey, because here we are, we're finally here to where we have both the JLA and the Avengers.
Put it to you like this: when I was a kid, I could care less about the Avengers. I knew Iron Man because I used to watch the 90s Spider-Man. I was not into comic books then. I knew of certain comic books, like I read certain Batman, I read certain Spider-Man. I had some Spider-Man on me, but anything Marvel, I knew nothing about Marvel. I just seen Tony Stark, and I keep confusing Tony Stark with Boulevard Trask, so I'm thinking Stark is the same dude who created the Sentinels and blah blah blah. That this is young me. Iron Man blows up. For some reason, people are finally into Iron Man. Iron Man finally gets legs and traction, and they come out with the Avengers down the line because, well, why not?
Iron Man, I won't say never, but Marvel, I feel like, struggled to maintain a certain traction for a very long time. I remember reading some of the Iron Man stuff that came out in 2006 was the Adi Granov and Mark Miller. Is it Mark Miller?
Mm-hmm.
One of those guys was writing on that Iron Man title at the time.
Miller was doing Ultimates.
The shit was really beautiful, but I just never really seen Iron Man in the hands of the public the way he is now. And
Right.
so I just thought it was important that he really didn't have a huge traction. They've been trying to make Iron Man really cool to people for years, probably amongst comic buyers he was selling. But I don't know.
At a certain point, we had already seen, Batman '89. We've seen all these other superhero films, but then Marvel, all we really had was Spider-Man in 2001, which that franchise was doing great until the third one, and then they stretched that time so long until the fourth one that whole franchise fell out. Fantastic Four took the same vibe as the Sam Raimi Spider-Man films, and the only thing that really broke the vibe of the Sam Raimi goofy comic book film was Iron Man, which was snarky and the humor was a certain type of way, and then it was kind of mostly just this, I hesitate to say gritty, but it wasn't. It was just dirty. It was a lot of dirt and deserts and stuff like that, and that was cool to look at. For Iron Man, they're playing the rock music, and he's this cool guy, and you say, all right, whatever, that's a cool movie. And then Nick Fury shows up at the very end, and you're like, all right, cool, this could be a thing. Now, that's fine. But since Sony had Spider-Man and all these other things, and Universal had the Hulk, even when the Incredible Hulk came out, the first Hulk was whack. The Incredible Hulk came out, nobody was thinking about these things until the end, because they did the Nick Fury thing at the end of the Hulk, which is owned by an entirely different company. You had the Captain America shield. So now you're like, wait a minute, is this like how you gonna connect these things when there's two different universes? Did he literally see Tony Stark pop in to talk to General Ross, talking about the Avengers and all this other stuff, and then it's two different companies, so you're looking like you're not putting the twos together that they could possibly do in a universe. It was kind of a thing where people wanted, I guess the creators wanted it to happen so much that it eventually became a thing. So you get Kevin Feige as this, this through line between all these films. And he's like, yeah, what, we are doing it. So Iron Man 2 is what BVS is to everybody else, is like this movie that's trying to force this idea of this larger universe.
Your first film introduces characters, your second film expands on the universe, and the third blows everything out of.
People have seen Man of Steel and then seen BVS, and they go, oh wow, that's too quick. Okay, cool. You see Iron Man, then you watch Iron Man 2, it's the same notion. The first Avenger, Thor, and Iron Man 2 are probably the worst things that Marvel put out at that time, trying to formulate what this thing would be, because they were trying to force so many different companies and creators together that they had started consolidating all of these things into what eventually will become Marvel Studios, because they didn't actually have their own studios. They just had the little imprint, the Marvel imprint. And so that's what was carrying them through the multiple studios. But then once Disney bought them, they were able to actually get the power to push all of these things together. And now they had the power to create something like the Avengers, because now they say, all right, now it's coming. Now you're going to see Captain America and all these other things together. So people got really, really excited about these things, and the X-Men franchise was doing all right. And none of that was going to ever connect to the things they were doing, because Fox was making money. Avengers' success, and I hesitate to call it an accident, but it was so overwhelmingly positive to see these things together for the first time, this group, that now you say, okay, wow, cool, that was great, this is the best thing I ever seen in my life, even though nothing happens in the movie. That this was the first time you ever seen something like that. And then from then on, they had already built up this understanding that all these things could function outside, out of this one film. So the success of the Marvel Universe isn't, all their individual films led up to this thing. The success came from the Avengers, and then copying what you did with the Avengers and the structure of that on and on until you get to, wherever. And so when I look at Justice League and Suicide Squad and all the things leading up to this moment where all these things have culminated to this one point, all these films, even Suicide Squad, the end of that, the end of Wonder Woman talking about the mother boxes and all that, leading up to Justice League, there's only good things after this. based on that model, based on those facts that now that this is over with, now everybody has the freedom to enjoy the benefits of being under that umbrella. However, the implications of this umbrella has started to get a little murky at best. Is that a fair thing to say?
I think so.
Firstly, you would say, to this entire process, getting to this one film, it's been a lot rougher than I would say Marvel has gone through. The money is virtually the same, but the actual process, it has been actually like harder to accomplish. Wonder Woman has become the Iron Man success story of this franchise, even though Man of Steel made more money than Iron Man 1. The point is, when you look at the money and you compare, it's pretty much the same projections. Nobody at Marvel wants DC stuff to fail. However, the whole rivalry that they built up with the fandom, not between the creators or anything like that, but the rivalry that's infected them for several years, almost 30 years of this banter between these, probably the worst ends of these fans, and then now these mainstream people who just want to add to that clutter. Now it's become a competition,
and that's kind of where the trouble begins. So we're here with Justice League finally, and you get to see the film and you say, all right, where do you go from here?
Like I said, the road getting here has been rough, and now that it's over, now you have only a few questions to ask now. Like, will they be able to move past this as the Avengers have moved past their film, or has the corrosive nature of this competition and sort of the conditioning of the audience to get acclimated to what Marvel was trying to do, what they've been trying to do since Avengers finally worked, finally was the thing that blew, they'd never seen any money on that level on the Marvel side. And then DC, they had sort of success, like outstanding success when you think about the Dark Knight trilogy, which was the height of superhero films at the time in 2012. At the end of 2008 and then 2012, huge win for Warner Brothers in terms of the Dark Knight trilogy. But then you get to, like I said, you get to the Avengers. The first thing that worked, all Marvel wants to do, and to their credit, regardless of how you feel about their movies, all they want to do is continue to the stream of success between their films and have nothing interrupt that. And it gets to the point of, yes, saturation, but they don't want anything to disrupt the conditioning of the audience.
What I have a distinct thing about Justice League is the way they reshot the film to make it more, I guess, acceptable to test audiences. And what that has to do with all the press that came out concerning, the CGI, or just the fans tearing it apart. I felt like, especially the whole lifting the embargo at a certain time, press screenings, it just feels like Warner is in a tight space right now on what to do next.
I want to separate that idea from the fan idea and the corporate idea. The corporate idea, they want to get their money. And like I said, the guys over at Marvel, they want to see DC win, because if the DC model is off, it only means trouble for further Marvel films. So if they come out with their Ant-Man and Wasp film, people might not respond to it the same way based on how they feel about superhero films or saturation and blah, 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 blah. And the only reason that they have these reactions in the first place is because people are very acclimated to what Marvel films have been giving them. It's a certain feeling from the, trickling from the Avengers, the same tone, same all this, everything is concurrent. And DC can't do that with their heroes because they're so different. Everybody has to, feel a certain different way. If they did do that, it wouldn't, they wouldn't feel like the characters themselves, because the tones are so jarringly different from book to book to book. If you read Iron Man and Spider-Man, that's pretty much the same note. And you read Ant-Man and all these other things, the same note. Only thing that's really different, you would say, is sometimes the X-Men, sometimes sometimes X-Men can go a little crazy, or Deadpool can go a little crazy, but mostly all these things are on the same note, same highs, same lows. So Marvel can do that with their characters to a certain degree and still operate. DC, because they have to be different from Marvel, because they can't do the Marvel thing, you will see a certain reaction to it because they aren't doing what Marvel is doing, what people have been conditioned to like. I would say the thing that it affected the most was Justice League, because Justice League is a product of, I wouldn't say too many cooks in the kitchen, I would just say too many things that you want to try to look like the other man's dish. When you go from Man of Steel to BVS, and then you get to Justice League, where you're like, all right, people like, we're afraid now. You know, this is a movie made of straight sweat and fear, and it reeks of fear, of critics, of fans, of just like even the studio itself putting its foot on the back like vultures or something. It's like they really, it's a fearful film. When Snyder was making it at first, it was a fearful film. When they invited all of the haters of BVS to the set to watch them make certain scenes and see behind the scenes, like, yeah, you see the tone is different. See, all of that was calculated to make people condition or say, all right, this not what you've been used to. This is more like the thing that everybody likes. And trying to adhere to a conditioning style that people like rather than continuing will hurt going forward, only if everything doesn't break, everything breaks out of that. If they keep going with the same style and all that won't work for Batman. It won't work for Green Lantern anymore. Because you've already seen that. You've already seen what you do when you turn Green Lantern into a comedy. You've already seen, the effects of trying to make Superman into, this goofy thing with Superman Returns. It's not necessarily about changing the tone. It's about improving the narrative so people understand where you stand in sort of the pantheon of films of this type. And nobody, like I said, nobody at Marvel wants to be like, oh yeah, this is going to crash. The only people looking for the failure of this thing are the people who are conditioned to think that Marvel is the only thing, blah, 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 blah. Some of these things will get outlined way worse in a DC film because it's not adhering to, the Marvel thing that they're doing. It's in the zeitgeist. It's on every single generation has their understanding of that. Marvel, not so much. Because all of that has been unchanging. In the comic books, the same continuity for a long, long time. It's just been the same thing. That's the biggest difference between when you examine a fan, is you ask them, hey, you know what? Name a Thor villain. And they were like, Loki. Well, you say Loki because you watched the movies? Who else?
Movies.
People know Lex Luthor. People know, all of these guys.
They've defined their archetypes in such a way that Marvel doesn't have to adhere to, say, Iron Man having a certain outlook on life. But the minute people see Batman with guns, they're like, wait, and have Thor act like a complete buffoon and nobody bat an eye, because there's no defined. They didn't really work hard to define those things with those characters. Like, when you think of Batman, there's a personality. When you think of Superman, there's a personality. When you think of certain other characters, there, like you say, the Joker, there's a look, there's a personality. If Joker looked like the Joker, but he was serving Batman pancakes tomorrow, I'm sure people would have a problem with that.
Adam West, that's my Batman. I've grown up with him now it's Michael Keaton. And then now the one generation is Michael Keaton. That's my Batman. Kevin Conroy, that's my Batman. And they already have an idea of what Batman is because it's in their face all the time. Then you show something radically different from that, then they're going to push back on it, of course. Unless you can convince them that is something that they should, encourage. And what Snyder's universe was going to be was like a reflection of the world that we live in, our cynical world, and people was like, well, we don't need a cynical. The heroes themselves were not cynical. The only cynical person in any of these movies was actually Bruce Wayne, and that's not too far out of his character. if people think, oh man, dude, Superman's so sad and morose, he was the only one talking about values and all of that, and trying to get to the heart of the story, and everybody else was cynical in BVS and also in Man of Steel. He's a dude trying to figure out his life, same as everybody else. I
don't think the average fan really looks at these characters to have specific ideals and things like that. They just want to see. I had tell me why he thought BVS was whack, and he said because he didn't want to wait 2 hours to see them fight. He just wanted to see them fight the whole movie.
Point is, when we get the Justice League, now you're getting something that is hitting a certain portion of the lore that we've been waiting for a while, and we haven't seen the groups on screen together. We haven't seen the Justice League all together, and on film, live action. People haven't portrayed this for how long has film existed? How long we had Adam West and Robin years and years ago. We haven't seen Batman and Robin on screen since George Clooney, and even that wasn't really Batman and Robin. There's so many. We've never seen an Aquaman film. We've never seen any of these things, and we're finally getting them, only to get this feeling from people that is sort of loaded. We have these loaded reactions to these things, because now it's like, okay, DC is bad. DC equals bad now. It's like people forget. I hate using the word fan, because like if you claim something like fan, like I don't even claim the word fan for anything, but if you claim that, then you should have an understanding of whatever the thing that you're a fan of, quotation. And most people coming out of Justice League and calling it this, that, and the third, that's fine. Here's what I can say. Editing of the movie, most of the editing in the beginning, it has been cut out. Cool. A lot of scenes cut out. Whatever. CGI, most of it, if people understand that this movie was done around March, most of it had to be redone. So whatever they were already working on, they would change the scenes. So by the time the movie came out, you would get like sort of the double of that. So there would be some things that would look really polished, and newer things that would be added that would look a little different. I wouldn't say, and I hesitate to say rushed. Some things they took their time on to try to look good, but still end up bad. I'm not even going to go into detail about what those things are. And these are all just the facts about what's wrong with it. Certain characters, the tonally, it just doesn't work. For what we quote unquote know about the characters, not based on the comics, not based on anything else, but based on what we've seen so far. 180 for some characters, and that's why Justice League is a movie that stinks of fear. And the one thing that I want to do is move past this movie into the future of these things. At this point, I just want to be like, all right, I appreciate Snyder and all of that, but it's time. I feel like it's time for Snyder to step out. Not because I don't like his stuff, it's because what he's bringing to the universe, people aren't responding to any of that. So I feel like if he steps out, we can see other people go into it, and it's unfortunate, but it's time for him to just move on, and I think he has moved on.
Gracefully bow out, just.
And I don't want to drone on about the negatives of the movie, because I think I just want to talk about the positive parts of it, because I think the negative stuff is kind of done to death. I think people, good or wrong, or right or wrong, people have gone really ham on a movie that I think that nobody's ever really taken the time to just. We have the movie Justice League out, son. We have Batman and Superman on a screen together. And like the nostalgia is cool and all, but like that's the same nostalgia y'all use to defend Avengers every day. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. But that's the thing about too, is when you're watching these, you get this. I feel like Justice League is the first one that I can finally, if I'm gonna have all the DC films in my collection so far, as much as I enjoy Man of Steel and BVS, I feel like Justice League is the one that I can pop in more. Man of Steel, I feel like I have to be prepared. It's 2 hours or more. You gotta sit down. You gotta really, like Nolan and these kind of pictures, you have to really sit down. I feel like Justice League, I can kind of pop in and be like, this is cool. I really enjoy that.
I know I can sit down and watch Man of Steel anytime I want. I don't really have that problem with Man of Steel. BVS, only version I'm really gonna sit down and watch is probably Ultimate Cut. Every now and then I catch portions of the theatrical cut on television, and that's fine and all, but to sit through the whole thing, I don't think I have the time for that. However, I do make time to watch it because I actually own the Ultimate Cut on DVD and all that. Well, I mean, this was something that was brought to my attention, but do you think that dude is Catman in the beginning? He's the same. He's the sidekick from Mindhunter, the actor. And I'm like, all right, you got an actor for this, and it's just this cat burglar, but it's a dude.
No,
and I'm
bro.
like,
wait,
is this Catman?
The cat burglar from Gotham? You're
trash.
talking about the bull from Gotham that he uses to call the parademon.
Yeah.
My nigga's outfit was just like the Clue Master from New 52.
Maybe he could be Clue Master.
I'm not tripping. Like the bulletproof vest was black. The sleeves you can see of his turtleneck were kind of this burgundy-ish color. And he's like, what do you want? And they zoom in, and I'm like, yo, these colors are too distinctive for it to be an unknown. Like you said, they used a whole actor for that show.
Maybe I'm thinking of that because I saw a Secret Six fan film which treated Catman the same way, where he was this guy and he eventually revealed himself to be Catman. I was like, oh snap, like he was wearing a sort of the same outfit.
I would kind of be disappointed, but I can understand why they would do that as like a cameo sort of thing. Like they always take these lesser known characters and like put them in these stupid positions. But Catman himself?
Yeah, I guess like you inspired me to put on a cat outfit after this.
That'd be kind of cool.
Oh, yeah.
Like he like trains and then becomes Catman or some shit like that. But I just felt more reminiscent of Stephanie Brown.
If you see this dude show up again and because Joss Whedon shot this scene, and he's doing Batgirl, so you could possibly say that he is Clue Master, and he shows up.
That's what I'm saying. Like, there's a Batgirl movie actually in production right now. Like, yes, Clue Master.
Other thing I want to talk about at the very end, they got this what do you call it? Sort of like a montage, I guess. The montage is cobbled together of scenes that they had cut from the beginning, like the Wonder Woman scene. So it's not like a new, some new situation she's dealing with. It's the same one with the London police, blah blah blah. Because you never actually see who the terrorists talking to, but they take this woman away in red with these glasses. I'm like, could that be, could that be Catwoman, Cheetah, somebody? She's putting this artifact in the box that's just recut. But you see, I just like. I mean, I guess it's fan speculation. I suppose it's like that's too much to put on, but who knows? It could be somebody. Is that the what do you call it? The voiceover kind of gives hints to where they're going to their next one. I like the little cyborg suit now. Like he was like, okay, you got the New 52 situation going on. Well, actually, the Rebirth for real. That's the Rebirth cyborg costume. Something else I also noticed is that in the beginning, well, before the movie dropped, people were talking about Cyborg being like, oh my gosh, I think we even mentioned this with Walker talking about, oh man, how can you have Cyborg or the version of Cyborg that's a eunuch, and he's the black character he's got to be a eunuch and blah 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 and this, that, and the third. But there's a scene where they re-show his origin story, and he actually has his other arm still there and his other leg, and a little bit of some other part. So I'm looking at that and I'm saying, this is technically a retcon of what we've seen so far. Either that or this was the first attempt of him trying to put the suit together.
Yeah.
For his son. That was his first life-saving technique.
Cyborg was pretty much a torso. I don't know.
There's so much of his origin that was left out of the film. Like I said, one of the main negatives for me, or actually the only negative, is all the things they cut out. And I think and that trickles down to the score, trickles down to the CGI, or what if the effects on, the CGI's finished nature, and the reshoots of Superman, blah 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 blah. Which did the mustache thing bother you? And honestly, it wasn't his upper lip that bothered me. It was his chin. His chin didn't have real definition to it. It was like more of a mask. Even in IMAX, I thought I wouldn't notice in IMAX, but yeah, in IMAX is way worse. Yeah, in the beginning, the cell phone thing, it's definitely.
It was like CGI or post. They edited his face in post, and that whole thing was kind of. First of all, I don't really care because these are comic book movies. And that's always, I hate that argument from people about
it's make believe anyway.
Exactly.
Gotham is not a real place you can go to.
The whole thing, how can you, even the Batman stuff where we talked about this, some of it was a lot of Batman is very practical, but there are things, Batman-y things that Ben just can't recreate. There was one thing that was CGI where he swoops in and kicks either a parademon or he kicks somebody, but they also got a practical swoop of him too.
Perfect example of this is the difference between the real drop that he does on the rooftop with Gordon in them to what really happens. They have Flash on a treadmill to everybody stays still while they push him forward on the treadmill to make him look like he's coming fast. But before that, Ben actually literally jumps, and it's him. It's not a stunt double. He literally jumps down from there and does the little landing. However, he has no cape. So when they add the cape, they also in post they change a bit of his cowl and a bit of his posture as he drops. So it's almost like they taking it at his real performance as a reference. I like it for the cape, but sometimes I feel like in the future I will want to see them use the physical cape, especially when it comes to that iconic wraparound Batman thing where he's just standing there with the cape over his shoulders. We never got that in Nolan. We never got that even with Keaton.
How do you feel about the Arkham? Well, I call it the Arkham Batsuit, the metal one.
Oh yeah, it's dope. I actually like that more than the normal suit at this point. Yeah, because that suit felt more natural for him in the movie. It just felt like it was more I mean, I know from his interviews he said he was more uncomfortable, but it looked more comfortable than the other thing. Fighting it, it looked more tactical, or something that I would wear if I was Batman. If I was going to a room full of thugs, I would do that.
Yeah. Would you? That's what I was gonna say. Would you? I mean, as Batman, would you expect any of the shit you're wearing to be comfortable? I don't even think military fatigues are comfortable. They just get the job.
I just gotta get the lotion, talcum powder, and just make myself because you're doing it somehow. You're trying to, you gotta move all this time. You gotta you're getting wounded and all these other things. You gotta be able to breathe in your costume at some point in time. So it should be some, you know, I'm not expecting comfort, but I'm expecting to be able to move correctly. If I can't move right, I'm not doing it. And I think Batman is probably the only caped character who makes the cape a part of his arsenal rather than just something that he has just for no reason.
Cape is a necessary component of being Batman.
One thing I would say, Atlantis, I was underwhelmed by because, you know, this is just one area event in Atlantis where they just watch the box. It's just like how they had that one little bunker on Themyscira, and you haven't really seen the full gravity of, you know, what Aquaman is dealing with, which is why I think that the countdown now is for Aquaman, or really for a trailer, so I want to see what they did with it, and if it's still a little bit dark, I will be disappointed. I mean, I understand it's the ocean, it has to be dark, but much of that fight, even in IMAX with him and Steppenwolf, you really can't see, you know, clearly, I guess. You just see silhouette of just like this.
It was pretty quickly edited too. Because of that, you could tell they had to edit around that. Or at least
cool and all. It's cool and all, but I would definitely I want to see what they do, especially there's a couple articles out talking about James Wan and the whole him not using the air bubble thing that they did in this film. And I'm glad about that, because I say if they have to do this every time they have to communicate, we're gonna have an issue. And I think I don't know why because basically talking in their heads, I thought that was more of the thing that they were gonna do, or just ignore the whole thing and just say, yeah, we're just gonna talk underwater. I don't think they can technically talk underwater, and I think my idea of them having Atlantis, air pocket Atlantis, like the throne room would be sort of an air pocket where they can talk and have real conversations, and not just sit there and
like young
water. Sure, certain air pockets, certain buildings, and like, oh, this is like a down ship, and we're just gonna hang out in a down, in a galleon or something. I think that would be cool, but I would like to see some trick of them being able to speak underwater and not have to always, oh, can you just whip up an air bubble so we can communicate real quick? What if we're in danger and we're doing stuff? Will you teach us like sort of that War on the Planet of the Apes silent film type situation where you're doing hand signs? And look, point is I don't want to see that. I think anything that they do that isn't that the entire time, I think I'm good.
There's a lot of references in the comics for what they could do.
And this, I mean, it's a spoiler, but it has no effect on the actual movie. But there's a Green Lantern in this movie. I think the ring situation is like
the core apparently is wiped out, I think.
They never say it. They got cut out. He never says no lantern, no Kryptonian situation. You know what I'm saying? They never say there's no lantern. So it's not canon anymore until they re-add that part. However, what is canon, we see there are lanterns, but dude, that was several billion years ago, and his ring flies off. So where do you think there's already, like, how already exists? Why didn't he show up? That's the most immediate question now. Like, where are the Green Lantern Corps?
I just like referential pieces of it. If this is happening, the Corps is either what? Because mind you, that's the Corps story. The Manhunters wiped the Corps out. Especially at this point in time, where we're talking about Hal Jordan. If he isn't there, he is probably off dealing with whatever he's dealing with for his film, which they could easily write in and say, oh, well, he got called off to deal with the Manhunter situation, or at least he was dealing with that. Or if he's there, it would happen after this. The Ring, Abensor would come and they would do that whole GL thing again, but I don't think they're willing to take that route again.
I'm just wondering what exactly happened to them after that situation, because his ring definitely flies off. So our theory at first was that the dude got captured, so his ring never changed hands. But he didn't get captured. Spoiler alert, he gets killed. I'm not worried about the core itself. The core could be destroyed or not, whatever, blah, blah, blah. I'm just saying, and for that sector, there's no reason, because the ring already left, there's no reason why there shouldn't be another one. Not unless there's some dude on Earth who got the ring, who's just hoarding it.
Two things. In comics canon, the Green Lantern of 2814 that debuted, he never once really had anything to do on Earth. Remember that 2814 doesn't just necessarily mean Earth. It is just a sector in which Earth is in which their galaxy, the Milky Way, is in. Now, if the universe
but
is
I think
big,
Man of Steel, you know, you're talking about a whole other race taking over a planet.
exactly.
I kind of would see something had to happen.
The Manhunters. That's lore.
I mean, that's a theory.
That's lore. Yeah, it's
But
theory, but it's also lore.
It's a theory for this universe. Everything is conjecture, speculation. Because you know, this is, we've never seen.
What else do you think could have happened?
I don't know.
The new god, we've had the old gods are destroyed, right? That's canon, apparently. The only one that existed was Ares, and he's dead. So, old gods are gone. Green Lanterns are gone. You know what's interesting about this too is having Jeff Johns here. He's the person that brought Green Lantern back in the modern day from 2005, Green Lantern Rebirth. So you have that in which he could use already. You have the Krona shit. You have Black X Knight to borrow from. You have the Manhunters, which I'm pretty sure he's going to use. I don't think that first Green Lantern movie dealt with that. I might see President Luthor in 2025. Let's do it.
We're not gonna see President Luthor. I think this one, once you escape from Arkham, I don't think there's no way. I think you're gonna see, you know, and Unlimited, they had him hopping around the universe in that purple shirt and that green shorts, and he was his
power suit,
the colonist suit that they had with the Mysterio bulb on it, and how I call it, those are a little bit more bulkier than Zod's suit, but that's what looks more like Lexus.
That power suit, that would be kind of tight. I think that would be tight.
You know, Steppenwolf is just gray and black, and Doomsday is gray. Look at Enchantress is green and gray and black and red. You know, I kind of want just Ken Lex just have his colorful green suit. I seen a toy mod of Luthor with the Zod suit that was colored, and I was like, you know what, go ahead. It looked kind of fly. It was a little more harder than what the normal Zod armor looks like, but it was pretty fly. It's just some of the positive things I can really say about it, because there's a lot of, like I said, there's negative press going around that I don't necessarily agree with. However, like I said, the film has its problems, and the problems in DC are going to be, you know, on a larger microscope because of what people are used to. I'm excited about the future. I think most people, more than not, most people are excited about the future of DC. And I said, like the Avengers before it, same pattern. All these movies, they're doing okay to whatever. After Avengers, they stuck to one style that they focused on. Now with DC, I don't want them to stick to the one style that they increased in Justice League, this cobbled together thing. From all of these
compressing things now.
This was made from a lot of fear, and I think now you've seen both sides of the coin, where you tried to please everybody this time, and you think, okay, by trying to please everybody, you please nobody. So you give people what they want, but also you give them, you know, a little sour with the sweet. You know, like the commercial says with the, first the sour, then the sweet. So you give them a little sour with the sweet. So, you know, you can have your future films operate under an idea that we should never try to like appease critics or people who don't like the thing anyway. We're never gonna win,
Right.
because they didn't like it. They didn't like it when it was dark, and they don't like it when you try to make it, force it to be light. Because it's not supposed to be that. Do what you want to do, and I think from Aquaman forward, I think that's DC. Do cool stuff. That's what it stands for now. Because just go for it. Because like I said, after this whole thing and all the stress of trying to put the universe together, now that it's together, there's no more setup. You can do Darkseid in the next movie. You can do whatever you want. There's no more growing pains to go. This is it. You've reached the zenith of what the universe is supposed to be. You're not leading up to anything anymore. You can just have the freedom to go wherever you want. And that's what this movie accomplished. You have the freedom to go wherever you want. It's not setting up anything ever again. You just move on. And that's good. And, that's what I appreciate from this film. Is like, where Marvel, you have to constantly live up to the last thing or blah, blah, blah. You have to stress of like, oh, this gotta be connect to the Thanos and the Infinity Stones. And even when it does, people are like, well, that didn't connect to anything, so I didn't like Ant-Man. And Ant-Man is a whatever film, yeah, but like it's still like, it doesn't have to connect to the larger picture. And I think that's what DC should try not to do. Try not to have that Thanos thing in the background where they try to lead towards it, because that's adding more setup and more growing pains. I think the growing pain stage should be over.
I agree. It's time to move forward with no expectations in mind as a studio, and same thing as the fans. No more expectations. We've gotten the hype already. This was pretty much the blow your load moment. Now just let it happen now with no expectations.
Let it happen. DC Comics : let it happen. And that was Basic Control, the show where we effectively break down various forms of media into relatable context, basically giving the control back to the viewers. My name is Aaron Ray, aka the Boss Ray, on social media. Feel free to follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and ArtStation. As for my co-host, where can the people find you?
At 80K lives bouncing off the interwebs.
Follow us on Facebook at Poppy Guys Attack. Subscribe to us on YouTube at PG Attack, or email us at pgattack@gmail.com. Any questions, comments, hypotheticals, or advice you'd like to see addressed on the show. Tell us what you thought about Justice League. I'll probably create a new, like a more review-centric video on the channel for that. This was more of a discussion. Tell us how you feel about Doomsday Clock or Jay-Z or any of that. Just looking for some interaction with the listeners, just to gauge where people are at. If you hate Justice League, I want to hear why. I don't want to hear like, oh, it was whack. And I was like, well, you kind of wasted my time there. 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 Wasted my time there.